Today we're talking about this, a battery-powered, portable, reverse osmosis water purification system from the folks over at Itehil. We're going to cover why you might need a system like this, what it is and how it purifies the water, how it works and how long it lasts, how effective it is at purifying the water, and finally, my overall opinion on whether or not I think it's worth the money for overlanding. So why is this piece of gear a big deal? Well, when you're overlanding, water is important. In fact, it's one of the most important things that you have. You need it to stay hydrated, of course, but you also need it to cook your food, to clean your dishes, to put out your fires, and most importantly, to make your coffee. So you can try to take all the water that you need with you, but it's heavy, it takes up a ton of space, and you never know what's gonna happen when you're out there. So having a way to get water when you're in the backcountry, I think is an essential piece of gear. Now there's a ton of options on the market. There's pumps, there's gravity fed options, there's powered options, and the prices range all over the place as well, depending on what kind of filter you want and if you want it powered or not. But basically, what you need to have is a way to get clean, purified drinking water that won't make you or the people that you're with sick when you drink it. So what's a reverse osmosis system? Let me tell you. Basically, it means that the water is forced through a filter with very, very small membranes that allow for the water to get through, but not for the impurities that make you sick. So when I say small membranes, I mean like teeny tiny microscopic membranes that catch all of the bad stuff, but let the water slip through. It takes some pretty specialized filters and a good amount of force to make this work, but when it works, it's a very effective way at getting pure drinking water. The Itehil system has kind of a three-stage process. It has some charcoal at the source that gets some of the big stuff out. It has a hybrid filter in the middle, which gets some of the medium stuff out. And then it has the reverse osmosis filter, which gets all of the really, really fine stuff out, which is why they say it creates very pure and very good tasting drinking water. So what makes this system interesting is they say you can get 7.6 gallons of water per charge. To put that into perspective, when you're out in the backcountry, you need about 1 gallon of water per person per day. So when Kate and I go out, we typically take 4 to 6 gallons when we're going out for a weekend. If we were to bring along this Itehil water purification system, we could double, maybe even triple our time out without needing to find a potable water source, which is pretty interesting. But, there's always a but, right? It comes with a catch and a little bit of a quirk that I'm gonna show you here in just a second. So let me take you through the three parts of this as a user. There's, this compartment pops open and there are two filters. You've got your hybrid filter and you've got your reverse osmosis filter. And the cool thing about these is that they have different bottoms, so you can't put one in the other. They pop in there, they fit really nicely, and you just twist them to lock them down. Okay, then on the back, you've got the water intake connection, and there's a hose that connects to this. I'll show you in just a second. On the front, you've got kind of the same thing, but this is where it gets a little quirky. There's this flap that, by the way, doesn't connect super well. And there's two water outputs, and I'll show you how that works right now. Okay, so let's just say that you needed to replenish your Roto packs with water, which we have here, which we will do. First, you would need to find a water source. So we have that. The Boise River is full of spring runoff, so it's a really good example. And then you would get your accessory bag, which comes with this, and pull out your water intake hose, which has a charcoal filter on it. So basically, you just find water and throw it in. And on the back of this here, this is where you just screw it in. Just screws in pretty easy. So that part's probably the easiest. So then, back to your accessory bag, and you pull out what I think is kind of a strange thing, which is this double tube thingy. Now, putting this on is pretty easy. It just kind of clips in right here in the front. And once that's clipped in, you're basically ready to go. But let me tell you about these two tubes. One is pure drinking water. The other is water that's clean but not drinkable. So it can be used for washing dishes or bathing or something like that. And so this is the piece that I'm not quite 100% on. I have never really thought to myself out in the backcountry, man, I wish I really had some more kind of clean water. I want one place to store all my water that I use for everything. So this is kind of a strange dual system. And you can't turn one off. They both run all the time at the same time when you turn the pump on. I asked the folks at Itehil, and they made it sound like that's something to do with getting the pure water out. There has to be a byproduct with the way this system is designed. So if that's the price that you pay for portable reverse osmosis, maybe it's worth it, but let's find out. So what we're gonna do is we're going to refill my Roto packs and see how long it takes. So let's do that. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our Roto packs here. We're gonna take the drinking tube. We're gonna put it in there. Take the non-drinking tube, and I'm just running it back towards the river. And press and hold the on button here. So it comes on, and there it goes. So it's slowly pumping water. It's gonna flush the filters first, and then it's gonna pump water, and we're gonna time how long it takes to fill up this 2-gallon Roto packs. Okay, so we're just about full here. Looks like, yeah, we're just kind of spilling over the top. It has been 34 minutes to fill up 2 gallons, so that takes quite a while. Now we can go test this water versus home water versus river water and kind of see what the difference between those three things are. So I was gonna go to my house and test this water for you, but I decided to come here instead. So we actually are just starting a 1,200-mile trek from the south to the north of Idaho. We're gonna do the whole thing on dirt roads, and we're using the Itehil water purification system as we go. I've got a great test kit. We're gonna test kind of all the minerals and things that are in it. We're also gonna test the bacteria. So let's get started. So we're gonna use this Verify test kit. And all you do is put the strip in there for 2 seconds and then compare it to the back to see what you got in the water. So as you can see, the colors here, you can just kind of match them up and they tell you how much of each of these minerals and things are in there. So this, in terms of minerals like pH, hardness, iron, copper, lead, fluoride, zinc, those kinds of things is acceptable by water cleanliness standards. Okay, this is the river water. And you know what? The river water actually looks pretty clean too. This is the 3rd time I've tested it, so I think the results are pretty steady. There's a little bit more of some of these things, but I think they're probably still in the acceptable range. So in terms of like minerals and whatnot, we have relatively clean river water coming out of the Boise River. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't still run it through the water purification system, because we're going to test for bacteria here in just a second. Now I'm going to test the purified sample and the river water sample for bacteria. I've got these 2 little test kits. We're going to put the water in here, let it sit for 48 hours, and come back and test the results. Okay, everyone, I've got good news, confusing news, bad news, and then good news. So first, the good news. The good news is that the test came back clean. There was not enough bacteria in this water after we ran it through the Itehil to have any kind of significant findings. If it was green, that would be bad. It's orange, it's good. The confusing news is this is the color of the river water. So they both came back with no bacteria, or not enough bacteria to cause this test to go off. So that's confusing, because I can't really say that it was the Itehil that purified the water, because it looks like maybe it was already relatively pure. The bad news is the last time you saw me, I was on the BDR and I was using the Itehil for my water source. I was throwing it out into lakes and rivers, and it stopped working. I'm out in the middle of nowhere on a trip for 10 days in the Idaho backcountry, and I'm using this to replenish my water. This is my first attempt to do that after testing it at home. So you can see the intakes over there, and the drinking water is going into my drinking water, and the non-drinking water is going into a bucket here that we'll use for dishes. This seems to be doing okay. This is actually putting out a little bit of water. The drinking water, however, isn't putting anything out. So there's like nothing coming out of this, really. And I've been running it for over an hour. And I don't know if you can see, but there's just barely, maybe a quarter or maybe a half a gallon. Looks like about a quarter gallon. And so I had to kind of abandon using it during that trip and regroup. The good news after the bad news is that I contacted Itehil and told them what had happened. Once we decided that it really wasn't operator error, they sent me a new one lickety split. And it's working actually better than the last one did. It's pumping at a higher rate. So I think maybe because they had sent me a prototype, there was just something wrong with one of the pumps. Maybe wasn't giving it enough force to get through that reverse osmosis filter and come out on the other end. This is all to say having a way in which to get water when you're on the trail is incredibly important. And I think Itehil has developed some interesting technology in order to do that in a portable way. I think they're still working out some of the bugs, at least they were with me, but that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna use this. I'm definitely gonna use this on my next trip, test it some more, and report back on those trip videos as to how it's doing. I hope this is really helpful for you. I think this is really interesting. It's definitely a problem that needs to be solved in overlanding. So thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Will from Venture to Rome. We'll see you then.